we're going to write a pop punk song using power chords and octaves on guitar, and then we're going to record it in Soundtrap. Now, pop punk might be the perfect vessel to start writing songs, especially on guitar. Since you don't have to worry about major and minor chords, you're only dealing with power chords and octaves, it's really easy to make a chord progression sound good. And most chord progressions in pop punk only use the 1, 4, 5, and 6 chords. So the first thing that I would do whenever I'm trying to learn how to write in any style is to listen. Listen, 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 listen. Now, luckily, I grew up in the early 2000s, so I lived pop punk. But if you want to write in that style, start listening to songs on the playlist on this page and then get the sound in your head. When you go to write something, you don't want to sound like you're an alien to it. You want to sound like you are native to it. And then you can start to bring in your own ideas from your own experiences into that musical style. But definitely live it. Try to copy some of the music. Try to play covers. After you've done that, then it's time to write. And we're going to first dissect a song that I wrote about writing pop punk songs. We're going to listen to it once, then we're going to go through piece by piece, talk about the different parts that are going on, look at the score, look at a lead sheet for it, and then we're going to use that information so that you can write your own. So here is the song. I call it the perfect pop punk song, and I'll show it to you on Soundtrap.
This is the part of the song where the words go fast, about something from your future or your past. Don't worry, it's okay to take a break. Spill all your feelings and your guts. Talk about how your friends think you are nuts and how hard it's to grow up. In the chorus, use longer words so people can sing along. In the chorus, repeat a bunch of stuff to make the perfect pop punk song. Add more guitar to the next verse to make it sound a bit less like the first. It's a good way to differentiate. Talk about your failed relationships, an emotional apocalypse, or how your parents make you mad. In the chorus, use longer words so people can sing along. In the chorus, repeat a bunch of stuff to make the perfect pop punk song. Have time, turn the backbeat into 3. It's time to build some energy. Have time, turn the backbeat into 3. It's time to build some energy. In the down chorus, we transition by playing a sick drum fill. In the chorus, use longer words so people can sing along. In the chorus, repeat a bunch of stuff to make the perfect pop punk song.
All right, so let's dissect and really get into what is going on with this song. So first, let's talk about the form. So we have the verse. It starts off right with the verse. There is no intro. In some pop punk songs, there is an intro, but this song starts with a verse. It goes verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, ending. And if you follow that form, your song will sound like a song. So let's look at the first verse, and we're just going to look at how many measures there are. So I have an 8 measure phrase, and that's repeated twice. Normally, we like to hear phrases in blocks of 4. So it's like a 4-measure half phrase and another 4-measure half phrase put together. That's an 8-measure phrase. And then we put 2 of those together. We have our verse. And you want yours to be like that too. Now, if we go to our second verse, here's the second verse here. It's the same length. It's 8 measures long, and the only thing that changes is obviously the words, but also I added in a second guitar part there. Now, if we look at the chorus, it almost looks identical to the verse in length, because it is. It's another 8 bars that's repeated twice. And then our bridge is, let me move it all the way over here so you can see it. Our bridge is 1, 2, 3, 4, 4-measure phrases long, so it's 8 bars. And then I did what's called a down chorus, which was just like a little mini half of a chorus as a transition to get to the out chorus. And now let's just listen to the guitar parts kind of by themselves soloed, and then you can get an idea of the different kinds of guitar playing that is going to go into your song when you go to record it. So let's listen to this first guitar part, and we'll notice that it's just power chords being played with palm muting. And there's some like accents in there, but it's really basic. It's the same thing every time. And then, so this is the verse. I'm just talking over the verse. Now we're going to go into the chorus. Into the chorus. Here's the chorus. It changes a little bit. Now we're doing more strumming. So instead of just picking like this, we are strumming the full chord. And it's giving it a different sound. It's more of like a Green Day style. And then we're going back to the verse. The verse is more of like a Blink-182 palm muty style. And then it's pretty much the same thing until we get to the bridge. If we listen to the bridge, just taking some power chords there and then just playing one string at a time. And that's what we're doing for the bridge. So if you have your chords written and if you know how to play power chords with a few different strumming styles, you can play all of the different parts. Now, what differentiates like one song section that's repeated from another is how we layer parts. So if we listen to the second verse, you'll notice there's a totally different guitar part in there. Here's that part. And those are octaves. And that's playing like a little melody right on top of our old little power chords. When they go together, it's a cool sound. Now here's what happens in the chorus. Adding in this kind of chordal thing where we're playing on all of the downbeats. 1, 1, 1, 1. All right, so we hear that, and when you layer that on top of the other one, now in the bridge, we're just layering 2 different power chord picking things, and then the last chorus, I added in a third little section here, so we can see that the texture just gets denser and denser and denser. So here's the third one. I brought back the little octave melody. But there's only 3 sections. And like I said in the intro, pop punk songs only use pretty much 1, 4, 5, and 6 chords. If you don't know what that is, that's fine. So I'm pretty much only playing 4 chords throughout this whole thing. Let's listen to the bass really quick. Now the bass, I recorded it with the bass, and I'll show you later how you don't even need a bass with Soundtrap. But here's my bass. I'm just playing 1/8 notes. And for this recording, I am using a pick. And then I boosted the treble a little bit to get that really like in-your-face, picky sound. And when you mix that together with the muted sound of the verse, it kind of fills it out. Okay, so those are all of the parts in my song. We didn't really talk about the drums. We're going to talk about that when we start writing yours. We also didn't talk about the vocals, but that's it. If you know how to play just those basic things, if you know how to play, power chords, mute your power chords. If you know how to play power chords where you're just like holding them out, if you could play octave, then you're kind of ready to go. So let's talk about the chord structure, when the chords are occurring in my song, and then we can use that kind of as a template for your song. So let's look at the chords first in a lead sheet. So here's the verse. Looks really simple, right? So in the verse we have, G, D, and C. And then right at the end, right on beat 4, I played D again. And then I went back to G. So pretty much the verse is G, D, C, and that last chord is held out twice as long as the others. And then that is that 8-measure phrase I was talking about, and it's repeated twice. You want your chords to be predictable. You want your chords to mostly start on beat 1 of every measure, maybe last the whole measure, maybe just last half the measure, but we want it to be predictable. You don't want things all over the place. That's crazy. If we look at the chorus is G, D, E minor, C. And then I just stole the second half of the verse for the second half of the chorus. G, D, C, C is repeated. The bridge, E minor, D, C, and then, oh my goodness, G, D, C. Same thing from before. So that's how it looks related to time. Now, again, the verse is repeated twice, the chorus is repeated twice, then it goes back to the verse, then it goes back to the chorus, then the bridge is repeated twice, and then it goes back to the chorus, which is like 3 times. Now let's look at it in relation to the words. So here are the words. This is the part of the song where the words go fast, and that's the part of the song where the words go fast. And I wrote the chords above the words. Now sometimes when I'm writing music, I write the music first, and then I write the words on top of it. Sometimes I write the words first, and then I write the music. So depending on how you write your song is going to like dictate where you start. Maybe you're going to start with some words, and then you could figure out where chords are going to go later. But you see, like, if you never heard this song, it's difficult to tell when these chords are because you need to know how the words go. If you know the words go, then you know where the chords are going to land. But this is what it looks like in chord, like a lyric chord form, like a lyric lead sheet. And then we had our regular lead sheet. So now let's talk about writing yours. And let's talk about chords really quick. So here is a chart that has all 12 keys and then the numbers. Now my song was in the key of G, which is this one down here. So we're going to talk about the key of G really quick. So I only used G, C, D, and E. And that's the 1, 4, 5, and 6 chords. And those are the big ones that are in pop punk. Every once in a while you'll have a 2, maybe a 3. You'll never have a 7. We're not going to use 7. So when we're writing our song, your song, whatever, the song, you're going to stick to a key. That means you're just going to find a line and you're going to hang out on the line. So if you know your notes on the low E and the A string, and if you can hang out on a line, then you could write a pop punk song. So we're going to try to stick to mostly 1, 4, and 5, and then 6. We can add in maybe 2 and 3. Start with 1, 4, 5, and 6. Get comfy with those first, and then pick one of these lines. So I did mine in G. I actually originally wrote it in C, and then I noticed that it was way too high for me to sing, so then I moved it to the key of G. But like, let's say I was in C, and if I wanted to do the 1, 4, 5, and 6, the 1 is C, the 4 is F, the 5 is G, and the 6 is A. Now, if I was to, play that on my instrument, I have the 1 in C, which would be, C. The 5 is G, the 4 is F, and then the 3 is, the 6 is A. So you just know where they are, and that's going to help you. And then it's time for you to start creating your chord progression and your words. So you're going to make a song section first. I would first focus on, writing one song section. You don't need to write the whole song. I wrote a whole song for you, but write one song section. So what I would do is I would write a chord progression. Here's like a chord progression blank. And I would stick to either a 4-bar phrase repeated 4 times or an 8-bar phrase repeated once. And just like mine, you want it to be super predictable. So let's say I'm in the key of, let's say we're doing it in the key of C, because it's easy to talk about it like that. And then maybe I would do like a 1 chord. Don't use this chord progression. This is mine. Just kidding. You can use it if you want. Let's do 1, 4, 1, 5. All right. So we have 1, 4, 1, 5. G, F, G, C. And we could just write it out there, or we could start by experimenting on the instrument. Like you can get guitar out, you can start playing along, find things that you like. I'm going 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 4, 5. It's okay to repeat chords within the progression too. That's fine. Find a progression that you like. The one rule is you probably want to stick to playing the chords on beat 1, and then you really want to make sure that you're sticking to one line. So find your line, play chords on beat 1. So now you have a part that's mine. You see how it's all like symmetrical? You want yours to look symmetrical too. If you have chords on like beat 2 of a measure without on beat 1, unless you really know what you're doing, it's just going to confuse the listener. Pop punk is about having fun. Pop punk is about complaining about, really simple, basic things. So get one section down. Get one section down. And then it's time to start writing words. Now, my suggestions for writing words, some topics, are maybe relationships or rebellion or growing up or just kind of anything. And now if we look at my rhyme scheme, first of all, rhyme schemes, say what you will about them, just don't make every line rhyme. So this is the part of the song where the words go fast about something from your future or your past. Don't worry, it's okay, take a break. So if we were to give like those letters, it would have been A, A, B. Be careful about the amount of syllables that you use. You don't want to have like a million syllables and like tongue tie yourself, because you want you want your listeners to like sing along with your song. Spell you're feeling in your guts. Talk about how your friends think you're nuts. It's hard to grow up. So another A, B. In the chorus, use longer words so people can sing along. None of those things rhyme. In the chorus, repeat a bunch of stuff to make the perfect pop punk song. So I had this line and that line rhymed. You figure out what your rhyme scheme is. I think the most important one is more of the rhythm of the words, the cadence of the words, your flow. And you could write a song that has nothing that rhymes, as long as the syllables have intention. What I would do is I would say them in rhythm first, and I would say them with a drum beat. So let me show you the drum beats that I have in the template and how those work. So here is the template that I have for you in Soundtrap. Now, pop punk is usually like 130 to 170 beats per minute. So we can change the tempo there. I have it at 151. Now I have the drum parts from my song. I have the verse, the chorus, and the bridge. And you could just listen to them if you want. Hey. If you want to just loop that one section, you can click up here. It's also, here, I'll make myself go away so you can see it. It's also right here. It's called cycle mode. And then you can just loop that one section, and then you can start getting ideas. Maybe you can have this play on speakers or play it through headphones. And then maybe if you have your chord progression. So we had our chord progression. What was our chord progression? Our chord progression was 1, 4, 1, 5. All right, so I'm gonna try to play 1, 4, 1, 5. Then experiment. Get some ideas in your head. Like it could be about how coffee in the morning is only good when it's filled with piping hot cream. I don't know what I'm saying. It'll wake you up even if you had the worst of dreams. Sometimes I just like to let things roll, improvise. That's my style of lyric writing. Improvise, record yourself. My voice memos on my phone are just full of like unnamed recordings. So like record yourself, get some ideas, write some things out, grab a rhyming dictionary, grab a thesaurus to get some synonyms, antonyms if you will, and then start figuring out your words. Write with a buddy, write with a friend. You are going to be a better musician and a better songwriter if you're working with other people. So get your one song section done, figure out which loop you're going to record it over, and then it's time to figure out how long you want your loop to be. So this is the verse. And I could move these elements just by clicking them and dragging them around. If I go to the top, I can click and drag the top, and it's going to loop this whole thing. So it is a 4-measure phrase. That's how long this drum loop is. So I could make it an 8-measure phrase just by looping it again. If I wanted to make it, a 2x8, where it's like 2 8-measure phrases, I could just loop it, loop it, loop it. Now I have a 2x8. Depending on the tempo that you have, you might want to make it shorter, you might want to make it longer, but there's my 2x8. Remember always to turn your cycle mode off. And then here is like a full song section. And then you write your song, you workshop it with a friend, you can use the loop for ideas, you can, practice it, record it, edit it, record it, edit it, record it, edit it. And then what I would do is I would try to get it recording ready. So now I'm going to show you how to do some basic recording in Soundtrap, but it all comes down to, hey, can you play this? Can you play this on your guitar? Can you play 1-4-1-5? Is that the progression? I forgot. 1-4-1-5? I think that's what it was. Can you play 1-4-1-5? And can you make sure it's in time? Because there's 2 things that will kill a recording. 1, playing out of time. You can't really undo that, at least easily. And then the other one is playing out of tune. So can you play it in time? Work on your chords. Figure out what your rhythm is going to be. If I have my 1-4-1-5, right? And maybe I'm going to play there's nothing wrong with this. Playing on all the downbeats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can also play like on just all the quarter notes. Figure out how big your chord is going to be. Is it going to be a 3-note power chord? Is it going to be just 2? Are you going to alternate between? Figure out what you're going to do. Now, maybe it has a strumming pattern. Maybe it's muted. But you just need to make sure that you can play it. And I would play it with the drum loop and get it into your hands, get it into your fingers so that you have no question about playing it. Because as soon as you hit the big red button, as soon as you go to record it, I always find myself to be a little worse, which is strange. So prepare for that. You could write your whole song, get your friends to play it, and that could be it. You don't have to record it. But I think it's fun to record it, especially if you're just doing this by yourself. So let me show you how to set up a recording. So how about some gear? All right, so you could, normally I record with like a Boss Katana amp, which is a cheap amp. And I just take the direct out into my audio interface. But for right now, I'm going to use this. This is IK Multimedia iRig HD interface. This is plugged into my computer. It can plug into a phone. It can plug into a laptop. It can plug into whatever. And then I just plug my guitar into it. And I'm using a more budget guitar. This is a Squier Affinity. Is it an Affinity? Yeah, Squier Affinity Telecaster. Cheap. It's like $200. It has to be in tune though. So I have my tuner on. You also have a tuner in Soundtrap. So what you want to do if you're going to start from scratch, click Add New Track. You're going to want to click Guitar and Bass Amp. And then you'll have all this stuff here. I turn off some things to start from scratch. And then you want to make sure that you have the correct input chosen. So mine is my iRig HD, and that's what I'm going to be using. So here's how I'm setting mine up. Now, if you go to Effects, you'll see I have this set to Guitar Amp, and then I'm using a bit of an overdrive. I'm actually using the sounds from Soundtrap right now on my guitar. So when I'm playing, that sound is through iRig and through Soundtrap. So when I go to record it, I know that's exactly what I'm going to get. When you're going to record, you're going to probably want to mess around and play a bunch of effects and stuff, but try to use less. Less is always more, especially when you're going to go to track. So record it. I have my guitar up. I have my drive set pretty low. I'm going to set my distortion lower. I like to add the intensity of my recording with my pick and not so much with my distortion, because you'll hear the intensity here in a recording. It's just going to get overly saturated if you add your intensity with your distortion in your DAW or on your amp, and that's a good on-stage advice too. So once you have it all set, I have my settings so my monitoring is enabled, so I'm able to hear it in my headphones. There is a little bit of lag between when I pick and when I hear the note, but it's like super small, and if you practice with it, you'll get good at hearing that difference. And then there is a tuner built into Soundtrap, so let's use the tuner. I'm going to tune up my guitar. Oh golly, I'm already sharp. It's not the most accurate looking, but I can tell that's flat. All right, and I'm going to check it with my tuner. So here we go, Soundtrap. I'm going to check it with my tuner. Let's see how good you are. Ooh, it's a little flat. All right, we want it to be as in tune as possible. Don't tune your guitar and then the next day say, oh, I tuned it yesterday. It's in tune. Your guitar's never in tune. You have to tune it. Tune it all of the time, because there's nothing worse than going to listen to your recording and realizing you're out of tune. You could be out of tune here. You could also be out of tune here. Make sure you don't press too hard when you go to play. All right, so once you get it all ready to record, you want to make sure that your metronome's on. So I am arming my metronome by going down here, and I like to use the clave sound. I like the metronome loud and proud in my ears so that I know I'm going to be in time. So once you've figured out like the rhythm that you're going to play, if you need to write it down, you can write it down. You can write it down in standard notation. You can write it down in beat map, whatever. So I'm just going to record that first chord progression a couple times. We'll see what happens. 1, 4, 1, 5. Here we go. Press record. All right, so now I had that. Let's look at it, because we can evaluate it just with our eyes. So if we zoom in, I'm zooming in here. I could see time. There's like beat 1, and I'm pretty on time. Now we can listen to it back. Now with this interface, there is that slight delay. So what I'm gonna do, you don't need to worry about this, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually go in and just trim that delay out, and now when I go listen back, it's right in time. But the nitty-gritty things, especially with time, are gonna make everything sound tight, especially when we're dealing with that distortion. If you have that distortion turned down, if everything is tight with time, then it's gonna sound good. Oh, didn't talk about this, but make sure on your guitar that you have your guitar set to the bridge pickup. So on this guitar, tone all the way up, volume all the way up. Never play rhythm guitar with your volume not all the way up. Turn your volume up, volume all the way up. And then this is set to my bridge pickup, and I have my hand turned all the way up. And then we can always turn it down. You can always turn it down later. So I have that one part recorded. Sounds good. Now I want to add in another layer. I want to add in another layer. I want to add in another guitar part. So I did 1, 4, 1, 5. I used pretty much low notes, and I played just on the downbeats. So I'm going to just duplicate this track, and that allows me to keep the same settings. Then I'm going to delete what I recorded. And then instead of playing all whole notes like I did before, where I was playing my whole notes there, instead of playing all whole notes, maybe I'm going to play eighth notes. But I'm gonna alternate. I'm gonna go from one string to the next. 1, 4, 1, 5. That seems easy enough. Practice it a few times, get it under your fingers, and now let's go to record it. All right, so I'm gonna go press record here. Dun, 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 dun. All right, so I have my 2 parts, and again, evaluate your time. I know that if I look really close here, you can see that that latency, or it could be it could be the latency in your hand. Like you could be just slightly out of time. Get to know your time tendency. The more you record, the better you'll get at it. And then let's talk about adding in like octaves. So these parts so far have been just very rhythm guitar-y, where you're playing just the chords. But octaves, I think about those more as melodies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick to my line. All right, I'm going to stick to my line. I'm going to stick to C. Stick to notes in the key of C. This is the song that I'm writing right now, this mini song. It's all in C. So I'm going to find notes on the guitar. I'm going to find octaves that are in C. And I'm going to try to come up with a little melody in C. Just something that sounds good. No rules, just sounding good. Those are the rules. Make it sound good. And then repeat it. Like it could even be easier than that. It could be, or it could be, like, how about that? There's nothing more basic than that. So let's add that to our little song. Ba, ba, da, da, da. Practice it again. We're going to create a new track. Just going to duplicate, delete what I had before, and then let's go through it. Da, 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 da. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so I recorded a whole heck of a lot. And if we listen to it all, there's a lot going on. We're still missing bass. We should probably add in bass before we talk about anything else. Then all we're gonna do is we're gonna play, and you can pick it. We're just gonna play the roots of the chords. You can play quarter notes, you can play eighth notes, you can play whatever. Just make sure they're all like the same volume, because that's what we're gonna do as a bass player. You can also match the kick drum rhythm if you want, but we're just gonna do that. Just play the roots of the chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just playing roots. Okay, it's kidding. You can even tell it's starting to distort. There's just so much going on. But let's solo just that bass part, and I'm gonna loop it, and now we're gonna turn it into a bass. Doesn't sound like a bass right now, does it? All right, so what I'm gonna do is edit, change pitch, and I'm gonna go -12. So what that's gonna do is it's gonna turn my guitar, and it's going to tune the entire thing down an octave. All right, so I have that latency thing going on here. Let's get rid of it by doing that. All right, still a little bit latency. All right, now we can go in and we can start to tweak some of these settings to really make it sound like a bass. So I'm gonna add in more bass. Boost that bass. Turn the drive down a tad. All right, now I have a bass. Didn't have a bass before, now I have a bass. So now I'm just gonna work with drums and bass first. I wanna mix my drums and bass. So I'm soloing by just clicking on that, soloing my drums and my bass. And then what you're going to do is you're going to adjust the levels. To adjust the levels, you're going to grab the volume knobs. So I actually kind of liked where the levels were there. We don't want things to be too quiet and then kind of disappear in the mix. Especially, that's why we got to make sure that we're picking with that same velocity. So now let's talk about these guitar parts. We don't want this. This is all of the guitar parts at all the same volume levels. We'll just listen to the guitar parts. How about that? This is all the guitar parts at the same volume levels. It's hard to hear anything. There's just so much going on. So what we do in that case is we work on what's called panning. So let's talk about panning really quick by listening to it. So I'm gonna put this one on. If you have headphones on, I'm gonna turn this off. Just this one. It's just in my left ear. Now it's just in my right ear. So panning moves from one ear to the other. And I'm going to put this one slightly off center. And then I'm going to go to this next one, and I'm going to put this way to one side. And then I'm going to put this one, and I'm going to put it way to the other side. And now let's hear what happens. Well, when we listen all. Oh, now they have their own spot in my ear. But still, they shouldn't all be the same volume. I think about like the guitar parts, like if we're on stage and there's one person with like spotlight, we don't want, like that one person can only spotlight one thing. Normally it's going to spotlight the vocalists, but then the guitar parts shouldn't all be the same spotlight. We got to make sure that one is like cooler than the others. So I'm going to do that with the volume. So I'm going to subtract the volume. It's better to subtract than add. I'm going to take away a little bit of volume, except for that first one. All right, and now let's listen to it with the drums. Add in the bass. Starting to sound like something. The bass is a little distorted. I'm going to turn it down. And now let's listen to the whole phrase. Cool. So another good thing to do then is to just, you could loop these things too. So like I can, take this, kind of trim it to the end. I could loop it just like I did my drum part, or you can copy and paste things. So that first one, if I highlight that first track, I go to edit, and then I can go to copy. I move the playhead to where I want it. And then I can go to edit paste or control V, and now I have that again. And what you're going to do is you don't want to have everything playing at the same time. That's too much. But you can have maybe just that one guitar part over the first verse. And then the second verse, all you have to do, look at how easy it would be just to cut. Let's make a second verse, all right? So here's my first verse. It's just this one part. I'm going to highlight both these things. We could do this, we can copy paste, or if you hold... what is it? If you hold control, is it control? You hold one of these buttons. Command? Nope, definitely not command. There you go. You hold option. I can move everything. I'm duplicating the whole thing. So let's say that's the first verse. And then maybe the second verse, definitely got to like loop this. Maybe the second verse, got to move this over. We have this one in there. Boop, boop. And then we'll get rid of this, save for another day. We'll get rid of this, save for another day. So first verse, I had just the one guitar part. I have a first verse. There's not a lot going on. Listen to my second verse. There is some more going on, right? And then you would do the same thing for the choruses. You can add things, take things out, put things in. So now let's talk about recording some vocals. Okay, so once you figure out your vocals, once you figure out what they're going to be, then you need to build a vocal track. So I think the style of vocals and how they're recorded, so I'm going to put the tiny bit of reverb. If I go to effects, I'm going to turn all this business off because I have my two buttons I like to add into my pop punk vocals, brighter and compressor 1. Those are my friends. And then it's going to sound pop punky. Now you could, if you're using headphones and you're using a device, put headphones on, go into a quiet room, just record with your device to get your sound, or you could use an interface and you can use a microphone. This is a Shure SM58. It's a great microphone. You can also use this is a Shure SM7B. You can use kind of like whatever. But when you're recording and when you're tracking your vocals, I guess I should get my vocals ready to track. When you're going to track your vocals, you want to make sure that you've practiced it with the recording so that you make sure your vocals are in time. It's the same thing about guitar. You want to make sure your vocals are in time, your vocals are in tune. There is auto-tune in Soundtrap, but that's a lot to deal with. So let me get into my podcast mode. All right, here's podcast mode. Podcast mode on. I'm going to work on recording my vocals. Now, I had monitoring turned on for when I recorded my guitar, but I'm going to turn monitoring off when I record my vocals. That's just my style. I don't like to have monitoring turned on when I record my vocals. So in settings, I'm going to turn monitoring off so I don't hear myself. I like to hear myself just naturally through my headset. I'm just going to improvise some words just for funsies. When I'm recording vocals, I change the sound of my Met. I change it from like something really loud to something less loud just to give me the count in, and then I just listen to the drums. Because what's going to happen is no matter how good your headphones are, there's going to be a little bit of bleed into your microphone, and then you don't want click, 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 click in your microphone, because then that's going to make it into the recording, and that's going to be weird. So now I'm just going to record some stuff. Let's listen to and then think about repetition whenever you're making vocals. Think about repetition. That's where it's at. All right, here we go. Da 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 da. Sometimes it helps if you do words that don't make sense, just to get a good idea of what you're gonna do later. And then, you know, I was giving an example, a technique of what you could do. Let's say you're top lining over this. You haven't written the words yet. You just wrote the chord progression. You can just like nonsense yourself until you get like a rhythm, an idea of like the cadence for it, your flow. And then from there, then you can go into writing the actual song. Da, 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 da. Okay, I'm going to write something about the candy. I don't like Halloween because I have a sweet tooth. If I eat too much, then my stomach hurts. So say no to Halloween. Say no. It's always good to get a chant going. All right, so I had some things. Let's listen to it. Here we got all together. Now, I am naturally characterizing my voice when I sing in pop punk. So a little vocal tip. You want to be able to just sing in your natural speaking voice. That's first step. Sing in your natural speaking voice. You can start with something like Mary Had a Little Lamb. I'm saying Mary had a little lamb. Now I'm just going to pitch those notes. Mary had a little lamb. That's as close to my natural speaking voice as possible. Do that a few times until you can stay in key. Mary had a little lamb. Once you can get it in your speaking voice, then you can characterize your voice. So I'm characterizing my voice to make it sound pop punk like this. But don't start with the character first. Always start from your natural voice. Warm up that way. Get some good breathing in. And then you can record. And then you record like this. You can add a little fake compression. And now let's listen to it all together after I've characterized. I'm going to turn up my vocals here. Notice that everything's too loud. So I'm not going to add loudness. Sometimes it helps if you do. All right, now let's listen to it here. I don't like Halloween because I have a sweet tooth. If I eat too much, then my stomach hurts. All right, so then I have my little song. You figure out what your chorus is going to be, what your verses are, if you want to do a bridge. Make things repeatable, make things relatable, make things singable. And as long as you are in tune and you play in time, you play with intention. As long as you sing in tune, you sing in time, and you sing with intention, your recording is going to sound good. Be a little more like meticulous in the tracking process. That's when you actually go to record. That's going to make it easier when you go into the mixing and editing phase, and then you're going to have a pop punk song that sounds great.